All right, everybody. Sorry about that. Again, I tell you, I was a little under the weather, man. I didn't think we were going to make it tonight, but we're here now. So here we go. Welcome again, everybody. Welcome again. Welcome again. Welcome again. Welcome again. Here we are on the Dr. Jeff Experience. And we have tonight someone, as I said, is near and dear to me. Watched her grow from the very beginning. And now she has turned out to be a great mother, a great wife, a great parent. She's just doing her thing, and I am so proud of her and everything that she's doing, along with my other two children. She's just doing her thing. She's doing it. She's doing it. She's doing it. And tonight we're going to talk about parenting and some of the things that she's been studying and how she's implementing parenting in her time now and helping out some of her friends and all that kind of stuff. So, Britt, give a little background of yourself.
Okay, hi, I'm Brittany Brandon. Used to be Brittany Fauntleroy, so bad. I am a former educator. I guess you could technically say I'm still educating because I'm now homeschooling, but I used to work in elementary education. I've done preschool. I've also done nannying. So I've been in childcare for over 10 years in like every facet that is childcare.
So you've taught in schools and all?
I've taught in schools, public schools, private preschools. Yeah.
And how were those experiences?
The public school experience is something that is hard to describe. It is something that I will never go back to. It's a little heartbreaking because public school is like, what else do you have outside of private, which a lot of people can't pay for? It's just the American school system it needs help. It needs a lot of help, especially for those underserved communities. I don't feel like public school is doing them the service that they need. And it's not fault of any teacher. No person goes into education like, oh, I'm going to make it terrible for the children there. It's just the politics of education in this country. I think it's a detriment to the teachers and students.
You know, you mentioned, thank you. You mentioned homeschooling. I want to read something to you that I discovered in one of my books, one of my mini books. And I want to read something. 100 years before Rosa Parks in 1854, a Black school teacher named Elizabeth Jennings Graham insisted on her right to ride on the New York City streetcar, which were mostly segregated. She won her case, which led to the desegregation of all New York transit systems by 1865. Now, what's important about that is Graham then set up the city's first kindergarten for Black children in her home on West 41st Street in New York City. And of course, such home-based schools were known to the Black community since long before slavery. Homeschooling isn't new. It's as old as us. Think about it. Before the state convinced American parents to send their children to school so both parents could join the workforce, parents took pride in teaching their own children. When schools were needed, communities built their own. All of the first free public schools were found in ancient times. The oldest schools were simply gatherings under a tree. I just thought I wanted to point that out to show people just how far back, excuse me, just how far back, sorry about that, just how far back, I hit that mute button, just how far back homeschooling goes. So you're basing, you're based now on principles of parenting, I say, in this era, which is totally different. Tell me about some of the facets of parenting now as it was before.
I would say now parenting has changed quite a bit because we have a lot more information on how children develop, how their brain develops. It's not that this information wasn't available back when you guys were parenting or your parents were parenting. It's just there's a lot more science behind it, and it's more accessible. You have the internet, You can talk to a bunch of people about what they're doing, where they got that information from. So it's a lot more accessible to people. And I think what we've noticed with the millennial parent, there's a lot more focus on the whole child. Like, how does my child feel about these things that are going on? Sometimes a little bit too much, where you have the parents that are like, it's just how they feel, and very hippy dippy.
Hippie,
Uh,
hippie,
yeah. And it
hippie.
can be a little too much of how your child feels, but I feel like a good balance of like, how does my child feel in this situation and what is best for them is how the millennials are approaching parenting. There's a lot of names for it, gentle parenting, whatever. um, I don't say that I'm a gentle parent. I would say I'm an authoritative parent, but I do consider how she feels in a lot of different situations.
So tell me about some of the science that you have utilized and started to kind of toy with as opposed to your own life experience.
Right. So some of it is a little bit of looking at how I was raised, what worked, what didn't work, and taking some of my teaching experience, because as a teacher, like you don't get to spank your children, and they still have to listen to you. So a lot of it comes from how do you function in a classroom with 30 children, and they have to listen to what you're saying. Bringing that into my parenting. And then I read a lot of books, like you read a lot of books. I read a lot of books on what people who are like the New York bestseller, whatever, what are they saying about parenting. One of my absolute favorite books is The Whole Brain Child, because it explains from baby to teenager how a child's brain is developing in each stage and how you can speak to them and get through to them.
Okay, hold on. You can't do a drive-by
I
shooting.
know.
Called, what was that book called again?
The Whole Brain Child. Matter of
The
fact.
Whole Brain Child. Tell us about that.
This book basically breaks down how a child's brain develops as they are growing in life, what they are capable of understanding, what they are capable of communicating, when the portion of reasoning comes into their brain, how they function when things are out of control for them, how you deal with tantrums, what different types of tantrums mean. It's just very helpful for a parent, especially if you do not have childhood education or child experience prior to having a baby. It's a really good book to read to help you grasp what's going on with your child.
So tell me, I'm curious, what made you go into such in depth of you know reading about parenting and finding out about parenting and all of that?
So for me, things to do with children come naturally. Parenting comes naturally. All of these theories and everything, these are things that I'm already thinking of. The average person is not. So in conversations with friends and stuff, you see things come up that's like, oh, you don't think that way. So let me explain this to you. Not that I'm an authoritative person on everything parenting, but just through conversation, seeing people do not think the way that I do about parenting. They kind of don't have an expectation at all. And it's just we're just going with the flow, or like you haven't had these conversations. You didn't think about, what you're going to do when your child starts doing this. So it made me start researching so that I could give resources instead of being the person that everyone always comes to.
So let me say this, guys, since I know about this person personally. Brittany has been a teacher, an educator from birth, literally. She used to line all her little baby dolls and all her little toys up and read to them. She had all the kids in the neighborhood sitting down, reading books to them. I mean, this is what she has done forever. Sometimes you have children and you try to figure out, okay, which way are they going to go? And you try to steer them this way, you try to steer them that way, or you live vicariously through them. That has never been the case. I knew she would be an educator and a parent, a good parent, from day one. But one of the things I want you to help our audience with is um, tell us how you see the differences in your upbringing, and not just your upbringing, but your cousins, your friends, and their parents, because you were involved with a lot of them,
Right.
as opposed to what's going on now, and how necessary it is to do the research that you're doing.
Yeah. So we want to dive deep into how we were brought up.
Not too deep.
No, the difference now is I think children have more of a voice, and depending on your family. So I talk a lot about family culture, and I think your parenting comes from your family culture. In our family, we love God, we love people. Education is a big deal. We love our extended family. So a lot of our parenting comes from that launching pad. Like we want our child to know these things. So with saying, okay, oh, you love God, what does that mean? So our relationship with her, we want her to understand God through that relationship, right? So when we're parenting her, we allow her to have a voice, in a way that is respectful, because we believe that her understanding of the world is going to come from this household. She's going to learn how to resolve conflict based on how we resolve conflict with her. She's going to learn what behaviors she should tolerate and not tolerate based on how we interact with her. A good example of this, which every parent goes through at some point, is the tantruming, the screaming, whatever. We've let her know that screaming at people is not going to be tolerated. So you're screaming and yelling and hollering. I'm not going to talk to you like this. You can calm down, and when you can talk, we can talk. But until then, I'm leaving. So she knows people will not tolerate me screaming and yelling at them. I should not tolerate people screaming and yelling at me. So a lot of it is like modeling what we want her to experience in the world, what she should know is okay. And just like how God treats us, right? He ain't screaming and yelling and hollering at us. It's a soft voice, it's a soft, still, calm voice. Um, I was in a mom Bible study, and one thing that they said just really resonated with me. And I tell moms this all the time, and parents, period. The voice that you use with with your children becomes their inner voice. So what you say to them becomes what they believe about themselves and what they tell themselves when they're out of the
Whoa, 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 whoa! Run that back.
yard. Your voice, how you talk to your children, becomes their inner voice, how they talk to themselves, what they believe about themselves when they leave your house. So if it's always yelling, it's always you're doing something wrong, it's always you got to do this, it's always whatever, that's the inner voice that they start hearing. That's what they say to themselves. But when you have a calmer house where like things can be talked out, things can be figured out, mistakes are allowed to happen with natural consequences, of course, and like consequences that you need to set forth as a parent, they can go out into the world with confidence, knowing like my parents talk to me like this. I refuse to tolerate someone talking to me crazy. I refuse to have someone yelling and screaming at me. Like the way that you talk to them is their inner voice.
So there's a lot of communication skills that I'm hearing,
Hmm.
and I truly believe, especially in this time of uh, social media, and we're going to talk about that. But in this time of social media, I think communication skills are lacking, to say
Yeah,
the least. Um, yeah, Brian, that's why encouragement is key.
absolutely.
Um, but this whole communication, what I'm hearing from you is number one, letting your daughter know that there's just certain things, there's cause and effect.
Yes.
You remember I used to say for every one thing there's something else. I forget the actual term. There's cause and effect. What you do will cause something else.
Right.
So be careful. Um, yeah, sure, they're all checking in and bonding time with parents. Yeah. Um, so what you're doing is you're modeling a behavior of if you act like this, these are the results.
Right.
So now in their brain, and your daughter is 3,
Hmm.
in their brain, they're already understanding and developing. If I do this, this is what comes from that.
Right.
And one of the key things in parenting is consistency.
Absolutely.
And one of the problems that I have seen over the years with other parents, or just your mother and I, we taught school, we taught high school. Believe it or not, y'all, I taught high school. Can you believe that? I was a high school teacher in Tampa, Florida. Lord Jesus, I don't know how I made it.
Yeah, it couldn't have been me.
But the crazy thing is, I had the most students. We were only supposed to have 25 students. I would end up with 36, 37 students and a waiting list. And people would ask me when we went to curriculum meetings or meetings, faculty meetings, they would ask me about certain students who were supposed to be problems. You know, the ones with the asterisk next to their names. And they would say, "How are they behaving in your class?" I'll say that again.
I said, be careful. Those
Yeah, I know. I need to slip.
important.
But they would ask me how the behavior was. And I was like, "Oh, that's cool." And everybody would be like, "You don't have a problem with them?" I'm like, "No." And they would ask me, well, what special accommodations are you making for them? I said, I treat them like human. I treat them like humans and let them know that this is the expectation when you walk into this class.
Yeah.
I expect you to come in wanting to learn about our subject. And I taught criminal justice. We taught 3 phases, law enforcement, the court system, and corrections.
Yeah.
And there was an expectation when you come in my classroom, I expect you to be prepared. I expect you to be hungry to learn, and I expect you to be I expect you to be courteous to me, courteous, professional, and just do what the rules say. Now, you may slip up, but just know there's a consequence for that action.
Right.
And I could not play favorites. I had to make sure that I followed through with it, no matter how kind they were from day 1 to day 4. If that 5th day, though, they went against what the rules are, then you got to show punishment because they need to know that there's an action or a reaction based on their action.
Right.
And so in parenting, I see that a lot of parents want to be their children's friends. Can you speak to that?
Yes. So I think what happens when you have parents who want to be friends with their children is probably stemming from a poor relationship that they had with their parents, right? And you have a child and you're like, "Oh, I'm not going to be anything like my mom. We're going to be friends." Or, whatever. Like, I don't want to be a terrible person to my child. I got beat. Whatever. I want to be friends. The negative piece of that is your child doesn't see you as authority. You're my friend. You have no authority. And another part of that is if you go into parenting as I just want to be my child's friend, it seems easier. The work doesn't have to be done. A lot of parents don't know how much work it is to be a parent. If you are blessed enough to bring life into the world, it's inconvenient because you have to set routine. You have to be consistent, like you said. You have to set expectations. And in the beginning, it's very difficult because they are brand new to the world. They have no idea what's going on. They come in with pure chaos, and it is up to the parent to create a home that has structure, that allows the chaos to be placed somewhere up until a certain age. Like, it's going to be chaotic until they're a certain age. It's a lot of work. And if you're not prepared to do that, if you just want to go in having fun willy-nilly, it's not going to work well.
You said something I saw very important. You said when you want to be your child's friend, you have no authority, or what was that?
Yeah, it takes away your authority.
Mm.
You can love your child and still have authority. Your child can be close to you and still have authority. I don't want to say you cannot be your child's friend, but that authority still has to be there because you are guiding them to become a fully functioning adult. You're not raising a toddler. You're not raising a 2-year-old. You are raising a fully functioning adult, and they need an adult to guide them to where they need to be. Not where you want them to be, where they are going as a person who is autonomous outside of you when they leave your house. You are guiding them to be a fully functioning adult in the world.
Yeah, I think that's key. I think that's key. You're guiding them where you see that they are going, and you're guiding them away from the pitfalls that you have seen, and you know those areas. So it's like, hey, I know where this is going. I want to keep you away from that. So what's the line? Where do you draw the line? Boy, they chiming in here. Your child is only 3, but what happens when they get their voice? Choose the
Get
right.
their voice.
Do
She
you
already
spank
got it.
or time out? Say that again.
I said, get their voice. She came with a voice.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What's interesting, again, I'm speaking personally here. Uh, my granddaughter, which is Brittany's daughter, is my mother all over again. First, I thought that Brittany was my mother, but she created my daughter, and my mother just jumped in and said, "Hey, I'm gonna live through this." Like, wow, okay. So,
Yeah.
do you spank or time out, or is that too
I
personal?
am not a
Question.
spanker. No, I'm okay with answering this question. And I don't believe in timeout. And I'll tell you why I don't believe in both. Spanking it communicates the opposite of what you want your child to do, right? We say, oh, don't use violence when you are upset with someone. Don't hit them, don't whatever, but you're hitting them because you want them to stop doing something. So, in a child who's a toddler, and this is, I don't want to come against anyone who spanks you. If you spank your child, that's your choice, right? It is my personal belief for this family that we don't do that because you're communicating that you hit people when you want to solve a problem, when they're doing something that you don't want them to do, where communication, and this is why knowing what your child can understand and how you can talk to them, that book that I mentioned, this is where that plays in. So with my child, who I said she came with a voice, the girl gonna let you know how she feel about everything. So there are certain times where I will let her know it is okay to be upset, but you cannot say this or you cannot do that. Here's what you can do, because my job is to teach her the words to use to solve a problem. Um, for example, she does not like to clean her room unless I am helping her clean her room. But I've already told her that's not my responsibility. I did not make the mess that happened in your room. I can help you figure out what to clean up first, but I am not cleaning up your room. There was one day where she said, you're gonna clean up my room. And I was like, oh, I understand that you are upset, but I'm not going to do anything. And you don't tell me what to do. So you can clean up your room. I can coach you, but if you want to keep having an attitude, I'm going to leave. When I come back, if your room is not clean, I'm going to take the things that you have because obviously you should not have them. If cleaning up is too much for you, then you don't need to have these things. Now she's 3, so yeah, she can make the understanding of, oh, I want to keep my things, so I have to clean up my room, and I did do this. It is not my mom's responsibility. Now, had she not done what I said, I was going to take those things. That's the consistency that we talked about. I've done that before. You don't want to clean up? It's mine now for however long I feel like keeping it. She knows that it has happened. So she already knows, okay, this is something that she really means. Never tell your child you're going to do something that you don't really mean because they're picking up on it. Oh, my
Yeah,
mom said she's going to take it. I kept doing it. She didn't take it. So
yeah,
I'm going to keep doing it. My mom said I can't talk to her like that, but she keeps letting me talking to her like that. So I'm going to keep doing it. You have to give a consequence for the things that are happening. And it doesn't have to be spanking. It doesn't have to be time. I'll tell you why I don't believe in timeout. Timeout tells your child that they are not allowed to be with you when they're making mistakes. There are certain times where I will say you can't be around me, and that's when you're not safe. Like you're hitting, you're screaming, whatever, you're not safe. So I'm going to remove myself because you might cause me harm. I don't want someone to feel like they should be isolated when they've made a mistake, or isolated when they can't figure something out, isolated when they're going through an emotional situation, which toddlers, everything is emotional. It's the first time any of this stuff is happening. Everything is a big deal. Even high school. High schoolers are giant 3-year-olds. All their friend drama and breakups and boyfriend. It's the first time they're experiencing this. So there's a high emotion. And I don't want them to feel like I can't be with my parents when I'm going through something very emotional. So that's why I don't do timeout.
this is a very good topic here, or good statement. depending on the child, some may not be able to distinguish the authority. When we were talking about you take away the authority, I think that's a really good statement.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, brother Brian, he said, "Well said." Um, so let me. I got a mint in my mouth. It's a ginger mint. I preached at a church this Sunday, Faithful Christian Worship Center up at Gainesville, and the pastor had a mint. And I said, "Man, you might not have a mint." It was the strongest mint I ever had. I needed some parenting on that day. But how much do you incorporate? And I don't say this just because I'm your parent. I'm one of your parents. But how much do you integrate, I guess, your parents, your circle, your family circle? How much do you incorporate? Because for me, so I grew up in a single parent, mother-led household.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't have that father figure in the house. I had several men who my mother allowed me to be around and who I chose to be close to. They were my uncles, the coaches, teachers. And so I incorporated a lot of what was missing from them. How about you?
So, and this is a conversation that you should always have with your spouse if you are thinking about having children. How much of what you grew up with do you want to incorporate in your parenting, right?
Yeah, we're going to deal with that right after this state.
So we both, my husband and I, did a little bit of thinking before we had Kaylin about how we were brought up, and I think both of us were brought up in pretty good families. So it wasn't hard to decide what we're going to bring in. And obviously, every situation is not perfect, so there are some things of like, yeah, we're not going to do that. So a lot of what you guys did is what we do with Kaylin. Number one thing is safety. We do not leave her with anyone we do not feel comfortable with. And if you've never been left with my child, it's not because I don't feel comfortable with you. It's just we don't leave her with anybody. We need to know you. We need to know your family. We need to know what's going on in that house because so many things happen to children, especially in this day and age, where you won't even know that it's happening. And it's by people that they know. So we are very strict on, and we will continue to be, and no sleepovers unless they're coming over here. We're not just going to anybody's house, and I need to have eyes on you. If we are somewhere, I need to have eyes on you. There's no going up in somebody's room, and this is going into teenage years. You ain't going somewhere by yourself. That was definitely one thing that you guys did that I think is like we're carrying that up until you like 20 something. You're not just going anywhere with anybody. Also the family nature of how we grew up and the community nature of how we grew up. I think that's very important to have other people, like you were saying with your mom, not having your dad around and having those other people. I think it's important whether you have both of your parents or not to have other adults in your life that have eyes on what you're doing that can speak to you because there will be some times where even my child like maybe she doesn't feel comfortable talking to us about something. At least there's safe people in our community that she can go to, that she trusts, that I'm sure will bring the information back to us. But there are safe people around her that are also looking out for her, also caring for her. Outside of that, it's just like the communication, lovingness, and the fun that we had. I think your house should be fun. There should be silliness. They should be so comfortable at home that they are them true selves that people outside of your house, they'll never see the level of who they are when they're at home.
So tell me about this conversation um, that you had with your husband now, before you were married. What made you want to have this conversation about parenting? Was it a style that you want to talk about, or?
No, this was after we were married, but we knew that we wanted to have kids one day. So to us, it was important. We talk about a lot of things. way beforehand. We've talked about when Kaylin's a teenager, what we're going to do, which I think is important. You need to come with a plan because you can't just, oh, we'll figure it out when we get there. That's going to be real hard for a lot of things in life. So we talked about just what kind of parents we wanted to be, what kind of family we wanted to be when people interacted with us as a family, like what we wanted to bring forth. I'm trying to think, like, what's the face of our family? What is our brand? What is our family brand? Um, and how we incorporate that into our parenting. Of course, we had ideas of certain things that now that we're here, it's like that doesn't make any sense, or that's not going to work, and that'll happen for everybody. I'm sure you went through it too, or in the moment you're like, this is not how I thought this was going to go. This didn't work right in my head, but we just did a lot of talking of just how parenting felt as a child being parented, what things worked for us. So, for example, and I've talked to mom about this, spanking did not work for me as a child because I'm hard headed. I can weigh out this thing that I want to do. I'll take the spanking. That's temporary pain. I want to do this. I'm going to do it. So the spanking didn't communicate with
Ladies and
guys.
gentlemen, there are no lies told on this one. You talk about a hard-headed little girl. I'll never forget how mad my Aunt Lorraine got at me when she found out that I spanked you. Woo! She was 38 hot at me, man.
I mean, you guys were trying to do the best you could. You
I
had a
told
difficult situation.
about one of your tantrums, and she said, "Yeah, you keep on, because that one right there." Yeah, folks. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Just learning like spanking didn't work for me, and I have me 2.0 with a little bit of extra, so that's not going to work for her. She can weigh out like, oh yeah, I'll take the consequence. Like that's fine. If that's what it's going to be, I'm going to do what I want to do. So it's really learning your child, um, learning what worked for you, and sometimes what you guys did that worked for us is not going to work for our child. It's figuring
Yeah.
things.
Yeah, no, I get it. What's the difference between yourself and your husband's style of parenting? Do you see it to be a big difference, or
I think just because of my experience, I have a little bit more patience with toddler age. He's good with teens, where I am like, you too old for that. I don't got time for that. You basically adult. I need some more patience for teenagers, but his patience for toddlers is very low. Um, and there are some times where I have to like intervene, like, hey, she's 3, she doesn't understand, she doesn't remember, she doesn't know that you said that. You have to repeat yourself. It's okay that you said it 15 times, like it didn't get through. That's pretty much the only difference. We agree on most everything. There have been times where he's like, oh, maybe we should spank her, but after talking things through, we come to an agreement. For the most part, we're on the same page.
speaking of other children?
There we go. Sibling rivalries.
That's the one that should have got spanked more.
Oh,
So there's this issue now that with social media, and so she's 3,
yeah.
and I know that she can manipulate the phone because she loves watching videos. We watch a bunch of nature videos.
I'll be telling y'all that's too much screen time.
Yeah. So how do you deal with that?
She's not touching social media until, I don't know, maybe 16, 17 years old, maybe 18. I don't think children should have access to social media. I can't imagine growing up as a child with access to as much information as these children have. Studies already show like anxiety is through the roof in children, suicide through the roof in children, depression through the roof in children. And it's not a coincidence. It's because they have access to way too much information in a stage where they cannot determine what's true. They cannot determine what's appropriate for them. and they cannot determine when things are going wrong, right? They do not have the capacity, the brain capacity to make the decisions necessary to stop what they're seeing, to not look at the information. I mean, it's hard for adults. I get on TikTok and I'm stuck there for an hour. Like, oh man, I didn't even know an hour went past. You're stuck. You are influenced as an adult by the things that you see. Imagine a middle school child, an elementary school child, and they can't make the distinction of this is an adult, that's why they're doing that. This is a college student, and that's why they're doing that. They just see somebody like me, and I want to try that. I want to do that. I want to whatever. And then for girls, it's just the self-esteem. I can't imagine seeing so many perfect looking things, like they don't know that it's edited. They don't know that it's makeup. They don't know whatever. Everything looks so perfect. And when you don't look like that, it messes you up.
Yeah, so when you guys were coming up, and I hate saying that, but to this, I will have to say, when you guys were coming up, we were community. We were community. You guys went outside and you played with your friends and you talked to each other and you got dirty. You fell, you scraped yourself, you came in, you got a band-aid, and you went back out. You rode bikes together. You did things outside. You were community. Kids came over the house, and you had cousins that came over. Your friends came over. We had birthday parties or get-togethers, barbecues, and it was social. And I'm really concerned, like you just pointed out, the one of the terms that kills me now is cyberbullying.
Mm.
Like cyberbullying, really? Turn the computer off. Just get off of social media.
It's a lot more complicated than that because children can reach a large audience at this point. And bullying has been something that's been happening for a long time. So you were
Oh,
either
bullying, I
yeah,
know about. Listen, I went from Catholic school from kindergarten to the third grade, and then I went to public school. And I never forget, this guy was like, "Hey man, 3 o'clock, man, we're gonna beat you." And I was like, "Why?
yeah.
Like, why?"
So imagine you're a bully, right? Now I can take this bullying from the school and bring it to everybody. I can bully you in front of the entire world. I can belittle you in front of the entire world. This is not the fault of children. This is on parents. These kids should not be on social media the way that they are. Your child should not be able to be talking to people the way that they talk to people. And it's online. Like you're not
Yeah,
checking the computer.
that's it right there. Brian said, "Now it's all on Main Street."
Yeah. And
That's a
it's
good
there
statement.
forever. And
Yeah.
parents have to take the responsibility of not letting their children be on social media platforms or certain social media platforms and at whatever age, right? I personally don't think middle schoolers on down to elementary should be on social media, period. Like you should not have access to any of this. High school, it's up to the discretion of the parents. But it's like, what are you giving them access to? Which apps are you letting them go on? And you could say, oh, there's parental, whatever. People are getting around that. These kids are too smart. They are getting around that. My nieces and nephews should not be seeing like I shouldn't be popping up on your For You page. I'm an adult. You should not be seeing the stuff that I'm seeing
On what page?
on TikTok, your For You page. I'm sorry.
Oh, I don't know.
That's yeah, yeah. Yeah. You just should not have as much access to what these children have access to, but it's not their fault, right? Like if you give your child a phone that can get on TikTok, that can whatever, and you're not checking it, that's on the parent. That is not on the child. And you're not checking what your kids are saying online. You're not checking who they're friends with. You're not checking what they're saying to their friends, even when they're not online. All of that stuff is under your umbrella as a parent. You should know what's going on. And yeah, your kids will go behind your back a little bit here and there, but if they know we don't talk like this at home. We don't do this at home. That shouldn't be something that's going on, period.
So, Brent, let me ask you a question. You mentioned earlier about, and if you don't want to go too far in it, just let me know. But you mentioned about homeschooling. I understand that you are a homeschooler.
Hmm.
Tell me some of the pros and cons about that,
So
or those who may want it to get into that.
yeah, there's a lot of pros, and I'm biased, right? There's a lot of pros in homeschooling because you are the launching pad for what your child sees about the world. And
Do you know what this is? Roblox for kids?
I do not know much about Roblox. I know that kids go on it. I don't have a school age child that can go on Roblox, so I don't know exactly what's going on there. I would say check it.
Is
See,
that a social media page or something?
no, it's a game, but they can communicate with other people. So I would definitely say that you need to be checking who they're communicating to with,
Yeah.
what they have access to. But I don't know, right? I've never played Roblox. I don't have a kid that's playing Roblox. I don't know the extent of who they can talk to, how much access they have to other people.
So tell me more about this homeschool.
Yeah, so homeschooling is something that we chose for our family just based on my experience in public school as a teacher. It doesn't feel like a safe place for my child. If you think about how stressed out teachers are, and this is not to say like if you have your kid in public school, pull them out immediately. But for me, being a teacher, knowing how stressed out I was, knowing how stressed out my coworkers were, knowing how many children are in that classroom, what your child is being exposed to, there's just too many variables for me. And financially, we were able to have me stay home to homeschool her. We made the decision just based on the fact that she is a character and requires a lot of attention on what she's saying to people. And if I am to be the person that teaches her how to interact with people, and I have experience in education, let's just keep her home so that we can monitor what's going on in every aspect, and also give her a very high quality education. I'm her mom, so I'm an expert on her. I can teach her things in a way that her teacher would not be able to do that. We are able to move through things a lot faster and at the pace that she needs to learn them if there are issues that come up, with like just learning things differently. I can cater everything to how she is as a learner. Now, the cons to homeschooling, a lot of people would say socialization. But with homeschooling becoming more popular, there are way more homeschool families than there were back in the day. And I mean, you can go on Facebook, you can go on Instagram, you can go on whatever. There are homeschool groups in every area for every age and stage. I'm a part of a homeschool group now, that is very diverse, and the age range is from baby on up to teenager. And those children are normal. They are normal. They know how to talk to each other. They can talk to adults. I would argue that they can have better conversation. Their communication skills are better than those who are in a classroom. If you think about the classroom setting, you're with kids who are your age all day long and one adult. That's not life, right? When you are out in the world, you're not interacting with people who are just 60 something. You're interacting with people who are 20, 30, 19, 80, whatever. You're interacting with a various age or various range of ages all day long. So I feel like homeschool is a little bit more like normal life, and you're able to teach practical life skills that are necessary to being a functioning human. So, like, you have to make breakfast. What are breakfast foods? My 3-year-old can tell you what she wants for breakfast. She can make half of the things that she wants for breakfast. She can make her lunch. She can make her snack. She's got access to things around the house that she can do it. That's how you develop a critical thinker. Let them have access and independence and things that a public school or a preschool can't really do for your child because they just don't have the time and resources.
You know, it's funny you said that because I read a statement, and I always tell people never close the shades of information, no matter who it comes from. Everybody has something good to say.
Absolutely.
Elijah Muhammad said this: the education and training of our children must not be limited to the 3 R's only. It should instead include the history of the Black nation, the knowledge of civilizations of man and the universe, and all sciences. Now, when I mentioned the Black nation. That's not excluding the white nation or the Asian nation or the Hispanic nation. But it's good to know about you, who you are, and then grow from there.
Yeah.
But especially the part about civilizations of man, learning to know everybody,
Yeah.
and also all the sciences.
Yeah. So one of the reasons that we did want to do homeschooling is because I want her to grow up knowing that she's a global citizen. You are not just the United States, you know?
Say that again. Say that again.
She's a global, we all are global citizens.
Right.
And what public school does in America is raise nationalists. It is our country. We are whatever you're doing the Pledge of Allegiance every single day. What is it? Why? We are global citizens. We happen to live in America. I love our country. I love our freedoms, whatever. But we are global citizens. And you should be interacting with people from all cultures and learning about where they come from. When you want to learn about like history and all of that stuff, it includes every other nation. When you think about history that was taught to us in school, it was England and America. We didn't learn a single thing about Africa except for, oh, there's huts. Da, da, da. That is not what Africa is. We didn't learn a single thing about Asia outside of the crops that they produce. That is not what Asia is. We didn't learn a single thing about South America outside of, oh, these are the birds that are there. That is not what South America is. We are global citizens. And the good thing about homeschooling is that you can learn from people who are from these countries. You can talk to somebody's mom. You can talk to somebody's grandma about what it was like growing up here, what it was like growing up there. You can experience culture through food. That is my favorite way to experience culture. I feel like you get the love in the food. You can experience things in a different way that you wouldn't be able to do in school.
Yeah, Brian, I'm with you, man. That global citizen thing hit hard, man. That hit different. I'm stealing that, man. That global citizen piece. Um, Kiva asked the question: what book you think a new mom should start with on their teaching their child? And I'll put the name of that book back up here. The Whole Brain Child is a great book we talked about earlier.
Yeah. But as far as teaching your child, it is going to be personal to your family. We chose Montessori because that's what works for our family. Naturally, that's just how we are as a family, and it works for us. There's a lot of other homeschool methods that might work for other people. There's a lot of other homeschool curriculums that might work. You have to do the research on that one. I'm not an expert on all the homeschool curriculums. I am a big advocate for Montessori. I also like Reggio Emilia education. And Charlotte Mason. So those are the three that I'll throw out. You can do your own research. Those are ones that I do like. But it depends on your family. You have to decide what works for you.
So, what do you think about the Black-owned charter schools? Pros and cons.
Love-hate relationship with charter schools because charter schools can kind of do what they want to. There's not a lot of monitoring on who's being hired. You would hope that they're doing their best on having well-trained teachers. But often what we see, because you have to fill those classrooms, you have to fill those roles, they're taking people, period. And as a public school teacher, we have had children come from charter schools that said, they're on this level. And you get them and you're like, no, you're not. I don't know what you learned. I don't know who your teacher was. So charter schools, they can be great, but you can run into the issue of that teacher might not be well trained. These people might not be performing the way that they're saying they're performing.
So it sounds to me that you need to monitor it as a parent to make sure that these teachers are well trained and doing what they're supposed to do, just like anything else.
Yes.
I used to tell her, it used to hurt me when we had parent teacher conferences and 5 parents showed up. And those 5 parents were the parents that, you're really just wasting your time here, to be honest with you, because your child is great.
And your child's great because you are involved.
Yeah. Yeah. Now it was the other 30 that I wanted to come out and say, look, if you don't get your kid together, I'm going to strangle them. That's why I'm not a teacher any longer.
The more involved you are as a parent, you set your child up for success. If you are not paying attention to what's going on, anything could happen. You don't
Yeah,
know what's going on.
yeah. You got to really make sure that you got the right teacher. You know, the thing is, and I was looking for it earlier. I still get letters. I just recently, last week, I got a correspondence, an email from one of my students from high school that she joined ROTC. She loved what I was doing. Two of them loved what I was teaching, and she didn't go into criminal justice, but she went into the military, and she just got promoted. She's doing well. Another young lady who, man, she challenged me every day, and I knew she was going to be a lawyer. She is now like vice president of the Hillsborough County Bar Association, something
I
like that.
know exactly what you're talking about. She's a powerhouse. I love her.
Yeah, she's a powerhouse. And she took my class for 3 of those years, man. And I was like, man, who are your parents? And I happened to know I went to church with her father.
She's got great parents.
Great parents. Yeah, great parents. Her father passed away suddenly. It hurt me to my heart, not as much as it hurt them, but yeah. So there it is, parenting. So how important is it for both parents to be on the same page and active? Because I see where, children will play you.
Yes, they will.
One parent knowing that one parent's softer and this, that, and the other. Talk about that.
Yeah. So whether you are with your person you had a child with or you are not with them, you need to be on the same page as far as what goes on parenting. Of course, in different households, things are going to be a little bit different, but for the most part, the discipline needs to be consistent and the same. What you expect from your child needs to be consistent and the same. Like you said, children will play you. They know how to manipulate the relationship between parents who are feuding. Oh, if I tell my mom that my dad did this, then she's going to let me do blah, blah, blah. If I say this happened, then my dad's going to let me whatever. If you're not on the same page, no matter what your relationship is, it does not matter. If y'all not together, whatever, you need to be on the same page for your child because it is going to be disastrous if your child figures out that somebody wants this, but somebody else wants that. They will absolutely play you to get what they want. At the end of the day, that's what children are figuring out. How do I get what I want? Because that's what we do as adults. How do I get what I want? Until you develop the care for other people, which takes a long time. It takes a very long time.
Boy, let me tell you, your brothers are tearing me up right now. Speaking of parenting, I think I'm gonna have to do some hard parenting on them. But no, I'm proud of all 3 of my children. They're all different in their own right, and very educated and very smart at what they do. But yeah, I think it's such a. I've seen so many examples of how young people have played and manipulated parents, especially those who are outside the house, and the damage that happens because of it. Because when they grow up, they think they can still manipulate, and they become manipulators.
Yeah.
And that's a big problem. I mean, I've been in education for a long time. I was on the board of education, then I served as a trustee at Atlantic Cape Community College, and then I went on to teach school, and then decided in my latter years to go back to school for 13 consecutive years. And I've seen the importance of education, seen the importance of 2 parents working together, whether you're in the house, out the house, or what have you. And the results of this. I was so interested to hear how you and your husband deal with the different ways of parenting. Yeah, Brian, you're on it tonight. Isn't that what you want them to do? Critical thinking. Yeah, man.
Yes.
Yeah. Talk about that a little bit more, Britt, with for the time that we have.
Yeah, so critical thinking is something that is lacking. And that comes from a parent who's doing everything for their child past the age that they need to do that. And past the
Oh,
age
say that again.
past the age that they need to do it, right? You're doing everything for them. The age that you can stop doing stuff for your child can start at like 10 months. Like there are some things that they can start doing on their own to develop that critical thinking, problem solving skills that you don't need to do.
That's so true, man.
Doing everything for them. And I think where parents want to do that is they want their child to be happy. I just want them to be happy. I don't want them to cry. I don't want them to da-da. You are not responsible for making your child happy. You are responsible for keeping your child safe. You are responsible for making the environment safe. You're responsible for creating an environment where they can be unhappy and it's not going to result in like something terrible happening to them. But your child's happiness is not your responsibility, and they will be unhappy no matter what you do, even if you want them to be happy. I'm sure everyone has gone through the experience of a 2-year-old where they're like, I want yogurt. You give them yogurt, and they did not want the yogurt. You're not responsible for making them happy. You're responsible for keeping them safe and keeping them, good, right? Clean, all of that stuff, the basics. Um, you have to let your children do things on their own at the level that they can do it, right? I'm not saying just go let your child go wander the streets and you'll figure it out. That's not what I'm saying. You have to figure out where they are developmentally. What can you do? What can I let you struggle through? It might look like putting your shoes on by yourself. For your teenager, it might be letting them make one wrong decision safely, right? Yeah, go do that thing that you think is going to work out. It's not going to work out. But I know that when you come to the problem, you're not going to be harmed. I'm going to let you figure these things out. You have to let your child figure things out so that they can be critical thinkers. What was so baffling to me as a teacher is simple things would happen. Like the pencil broke. A kid would just sit there. Why aren't you doing your work? Oh, my pencil broke. Go sharpen it. Like not even the sense of like go sharpen the pencil. I think a lot of parents are like, well, what are they teaching them at school? That's your job. I'm educating them on academics.
Right.
Your
That's right.
job is to teach them to be able to do things for themselves. Struggle through things. They're gonna be okay. They're not gonna die. They can cry through it. It's okay. Let them
Man,
out.
this is so good. We're at our time, but I'm gonna give it 2 more minutes because it took us 2 minutes to go live. So in closing, Brittany, tell me what your future looks like. Are you going to? There's been some questions. Are you going to write a book? Are you going to teach this?
My plan is to start teaching parenting, probably in coaching. So it can be in real time with each individual family. I don't think blanket statements about parenting work for everybody. I need to know what's going on in your family. Like I said, that family culture. What we do here is not going to work for everybody. What we have decided on is not going to work for everybody. So what's going on in your home? What is your family culture? What are the things that you guys want to do? And then going from there. I do not have that prepared yet. That is something that's new. I'm just deciding that I'm out of the education space as far as other people's children. So that will be developing. I'll let you know when it starts happening so you can let people know. But yeah, right now that's what we have.
So if someone wanted to reach out to you now and had any questions,
Mhm.
are you up for answering any questions or anything? And how could they reach you?
You can reach me through my email at the moment. So we talked about social media. I am not on social media outside of TikTok, but I do not use that for family or anything. That is my personal thing. And as a mom, you gotta have your own thing. That's what that is. So you can reach me through my email, which is brittanybrandon@mail.com. BrittanyBrandon @mail.com. If you have any questions, you want to reach out, go ahead. I will answer any question that you have. And I'll let you know going forward when I've got some coaching and classes out.
Wow. You know what? I'm glad you didn't catch that. I misspelled your name.
My first name.
Wow.
That you gave me.
Wow, isn't that something? Isn't that something? Isn't that something? I tell you. Okay, there we go. There we go. There we go. So if you want to get in touch with Brittany and get some help there is her email. You can get to her. I want to thank you for this information. It was boy, they're still chiming in. Nadine, uh, how many more children do you want? Does the homeschooling change? Wow.
That's a good question. You know, when I first got married, I wanted 5 kids. Now that I have 1, I could do 2 more, maybe. But it won't change homeschooling. We're still gonna homeschool.
Wow. There you go. There's your brother.
Sending my kids. That's
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
okay.
They're still chiming in, man. They're still chiming in. Brittany, I can't thank you enough. This has been tremendous. I wish we had more time because it's such an important statement. As you have seen from so many people who have chimed in, one of the biggest problems that we have with young people nowadays is not young people, but parents.
Yeah.
We need more help with parenting skills. And parents need to understand and be okay and say, listen, I didn't have the best parenting in my house. They weren't bad parents. They just didn't do parenting very well.
Mm-hmm.
And I can say, I didn't have a book or I didn't read the books like you do. And, it was sometimes I wonder, man, like, oh my God, how did we do it?
Yeah.
But what we did was we were intentional
Yeah.
on doing the best. And I often tell people we erred on the side of caution. We knew that it only took one mistake for it to go terribly wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we also had the village concept that what I slipped in, someone else would take you to the side and say, hey, listen, your dad ain't mean. He don't mean bad for you. He's just trying to do this and, this, that, and the other. So it was ingrained in you and then it was enhanced. So it's good to have that community, but it's good to have um, things like this. Yeah, it's good to have things like this that we can go online and see shows like this and have help like yourself.
Yeah.
We thank you so much. We pray for you. And my little one, I love her so much. She's special to me.
She's
And
coming now, actually.
it's my baby. It's Papa's baby.
Tell me the conversation.
Tell her the conversation. There she go.
Hey, baby girl, there's my baby right there.
And I was gonna say for all of the parents who you're like, oh no, my kids probably thought I didn't do a good job. Each generation, especially within our culture, each generation had a stronghold that they needed to break, right? And I think that is very specific to our culture. Each
Right.
generation had to do something that made it different for you, right? For what you experienced.
Right.
That gave way to the next generation to do better. So what
Right.
you guys paved the way for is for me to be able to read books and do that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Because I wasn't dealing with the things that you dealt with as parents. I wasn't dealing with what you dealt with when you were growing up. So every generation is the next step to what you can do better.
Absolutely. Well, Brittany, thank you so much. Speaking of parenting, I know you got to go do some parenting.
Yeah, it's bedtime.
Yeah, we thank you so much. Take care, Kaylin. Love you. Thank you again. We thank you all for tuning in to the Dr. Jeff Experience. And y'all pray for each other, love one another, be kind to one another. And you know what I always say, before you do anything, make sure that you meet needs and solve problems, because that's what God would expect from all of us. Get to know more about somebody that you don't know. Get to know more about a culture that you don't know. Be a global citizen. That's the word of the night. That's the word of the week. Be a global citizen. God bless you. Take care. Love you much. We are out.